I almost felt Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Now, of course, it's Thursday, post Belmont weekend here in Saratoga with Jason, Joe, and Tommy. I almost felt though Sunday, and maybe it's dissipated a little bit in the days following, but I'll tell you guys, it was so great being up here for the Belmont Stakes, being with our horses, our partners, most of us together. And Joe, you were here. I kind of, and I still have that feeling. Little bit like when you're a kid and Christmas, you got that build up, and then it's Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and it's phenomenal. And then it's like winter vacations coming to an end and Christmas is over and you got to go back to school. It was a pretty great experience being up here, my friend.
Yeah, man. Well, the difference is now we get Christmas again in a month. So that's the difference. There's something to look forward to right around the corner. But yeah, the buzz was unmistakable all week in Saratoga. It was just such a positive vibe, I think, in part because everyone was so like it was such a novelty. They were so thrilled to be up there so early. The racing was terrific. And yeah, it was a big party. The weather wasn't nearly as bad as they predicted. Had a lot of really nice days, a lot of terrific performances on the racetrack. But yeah, Sunday and Monday were a little bit of a come down from those phenomenal couple of days of racing.
How was it watching the festivities on TV, Tommy? I mean, you were in Kentucky. You might have been at Churchill Downs Saturday, which kind of feels like it was a long time ago already. But I mean, what was it like just wherever you watch Belmont Day and Belmont Weekend? What was it
It
like?
was, I was obviously a little bit jealous because it looked fantastic. It looked like a great time. The card up there was, outside of maybe Breeders' Cup, one of the best we'll see all year. And you could just tell that everyone there was having a blast. The racing itself was just stellar. And, I was, part of me was really wishing I was up there, but because you guys all look like you had a blast up there with all the partners. Everyone ran well up there as well. So that was great. But a lot of, a lot of FOMO, to say the least.
Yeah, the happy hour we had on Thursday. I don't know what the official head count was, and it doesn't matter, but it was packed, and yeah, we had a great time, and yeah, it'll set us up. It's a nice little springboard into July 11th, where we start the traditional meet. Um, and we've got a lot to look forward to, not only with, of course, Saratoga and Del Mar on the horizon, but it's a busy weekend, which we'll touch upon some of the horses that are running over the next, say, 72 to 96 hours here. But we've got to, of course, take a step back, and we had a huge effort on Saturday, maybe 90 minutes or so before Belmont Stakes 156 by Ohana Honor. But we gotta, before we talk about Ohana, and measured time was very good in the Manhattan. Let's start, guys, with the Belmont Stakes as they barrel into the clubhouse turn. This was a race, and Joe, I'll turn it over to you. And I was not the first person, nor was I the only person to have this thought, but maybe around the second race, in between the second and third on Saturday, I texted our great Tom Bellhouse, the one and only Tom Bellhouse, and I said, maybe it won't matter going a mile and a quarter, but if the track stays the way it is and the way it's played up here the first couple of days, Sierra Leone is going to have a real problem winning this Belmont Stakes.
Yeah, I mean that's why, I said it last week. That's why I don't like betting horses like him at short prices, just as a general rule. Deep closers who don't break well, might have some issues staying straight in the stretch. He ran huge. He ran against the bias, like you're saying. He was flying late. But again, there's too many obstacles in the paths of horses like that who have to come from so far back on dirt. You have to have enough pace. You got to have a lack of traffic, and you got to hope that the track plays to your favor. And it certainly didn't on Saturday. He still ran great. He's still obviously a really nice horse, but he just needs too much to happen for him in front to take him at 8-5 or whatever the price ended up being. Up top, Dornoch and Mindframe, regardless of how the track was playing, both ran giant races. It was a little bit of a redemption, I think, for Dornoch. He had so much buzz coming into the year, and he was a little bit of a forgotten horse, I think. And then right here, when Mindframe drifts out, like this is why experience matters. And as talented as you are going into this race with only 2 starts under your belt, it's a handicap. And I think most likely if he had run a couple more times than that, he doesn't do that. He doesn't spook, and he wins this race for fun. So obviously there's a huge upside with him. He's probably one of the top 3-year-olds going forward, but it made for a fascinating race and a fascinating stretch duel.
So you've got Dornock, who is, of course, the full brother to Mage. That mare Puka she's just incredible, and that's definitely an understatement. I can't help but think, as great a race as it was, and Joe, you summed it up perfectly. Not only Sierra Leone and the obstacles he faced and how giant he ran, basically trying to overcome a bias that very few horses could match. I just thought it was a great race, and with Mindframe and Dornock, as we move forward, guys, I mean, what we're faced with. And Tommy, I'll ask you, I mean, where do you stand? I mean, the 3-year-old picture is as wide open as it could possibly be post Triple Crown, moving into the second half of the season.
Yeah, it's honestly, you can make a case for just a lot of these horses. Again, maybe recency bias is gonna pull me towards Dornock a little bit, and I liked him in that race a little bit. I actually had him in the double, so that was nice. Just
Did you hit the double? You better have hit the
I
double.
did hit the double, thankfully. I didn't play it enough times, but I did hit the double. But with Dornock, I think, like Joe touched on, there was so much hype about him. Then he goes and wins a not very competitive Fountain of Youth. I remember that field was scratched away to only a handful of horses, and then they tried to rate him in the bluegrass. That obviously didn't work for him. He missed the break in the Derby, and then everyone kind of just forgot about this horse. And then he shows up, he gets in this comfortable spot, and when he can get that speedy pace and get up front in these big time races, he's a really nice horse. And obviously, he just showed he can win these races. So I think he's a sneaky kind of dark horse pick for the leader in the clubhouse for these 3-year-olds right now.
Mindframe guys, I watched the race about 5 feet from my good buddy Mike Rapoli. Went out to dinner with him and his family and the Pletchers on Saturday night. And look, I mean, you think what could have been had he been ready to run maybe in January, say on Pegasus Day for his first start, as opposed to Florida Derby Day. But there's no doubt about it. I mean, the horse, in terms of raw talent, is off the charts, and he seems like a very, very exciting prospect moving forward. I mean, Joe, as far as like if the season ended today, who are you voting for champion 3-year-old?
Got you muted, Joe.
My bad. Yeah, no, it's a tough question, but I honestly, if I had to pick right now, I would say Mystic Dan, just because he's got the Derby win. He does have the Southwest win. He was second in the Preakness, didn't do a bunch of running on Saturday, but he was third in the Arkansas Derby. I just think body of work wise, he's done the most, but there's a bunch of other horses you can make cases for. To me, he's the leader right now, but there's so much more racing to come. And there's, like you're saying, take your pick. There's a dozen horses that you could make a case for as the most interesting horse going into the second half of the year.
All right, fair enough. Should be an interesting one. I mean, the build up to the Travers. You've got the Haskell. Fierceness is your 2-year-old champion, and I mean, his Breeders' Cup Juvenile was one of the most impressive juveniles I've seen in my 30 years of fandom, and his Florida Derby was in another stratosphere. I wonder how far he wants to go. I do think the Haskell is probably a good spot for him, just traditionally the way with his speed, the way Monmouth Park tends to play. But yeah, I mean, between the horse that won the Affirm, Parenting, and some of the other Baffert horses like Muth, it should be a very, very, very interesting second half to the year. We've got the FedEx guy rolling up here. ZZ.
Never fails.
It never
Always
fails
has to
without
make
a
their
doubt.
appearance, right?
This is just the hub to Saratoga Springs here. But who doesn't love getting a package in the mail? So I apologize for ZZ barking. Z, pull up a chair. We got to talk about the Manhattan. Let's bounce over to the Manhattan, which of course I may sell all my Google stock because I had this race queued up, ready to go, and YouTube decides to just
hit you with an ad. They always hit you with ads.
Yeah, they always Well, the dumb thing is with YouTube, I use the app and I pay for YouTube. I love YouTube. I have a subscription, but there's no volume slider bar. So as much as with the app, so as much as we love Frank Miramati, we don't really want to battle him right now talking about our beautiful 4-year-old Ridgeling by honor code named Ohana Honor, who is tucked away right now, pocketed up, Tommy, black cap, the silks. He ran phenomenal. It was a great race out of him.
Yeah, it's just this honestly is the culmination of kind of what his career's been to this point. I thought he showed up huge here. He ran his eyeballs out, and that's just what he does every time. And we've seen it build over this early part of the year and just get better and better and better. I think it really started with that third place down at Gulfstream on the Poly where he ran behind two nice horses. That race caught my attention. And then obviously he's kind of catapulted himself to stratosphere. I honestly wasn't sure how he'd run in this spot. I was a little bit nervous that he'd be in some deep waters. And right about here, I'm like, all right, let's see what this horse has got. Like, what's he going to give us? Because he was, like you said, he had this short trip, tucked it all the way, and this horse just digs in and fights. You can see Kenny going to work on him, and he's in between all this traffic, and he still finds a way to fight and continue going. And right here, I was getting excited. I was hoping that he could find his way to get up for third. And of course, he ends up dead heating for it. But I mean, this horse is just as game as they come.
Yeah, and he did not. And that was something I think talking to Kendrick, and it was, as I wrote on Chatter, recapping the race, it was a mob scene. But Kendrick was absolutely lamenting the trip that he pulled basically here. And you can see Farbridge and the yellow cap roll up right alongside. And just like that, he's in front of us. We get shuffled back. And Joe, I mean, you got to watch just the lack of a traditional turf trip that I think you want, where most horses like the winner measured time, who was really, really good, they want to make that run, that clear run on the outside. We are in the toughest part of the racetrack right now.
Yeah, well, I kind of saw it coming. He was getting a great trip, but obviously when the four started to retreat a little bit, I was like, I think we're gonna get stuck a little bit here. He never got like totally checked, totally steadied, but like you said, he did get shuffled a little bit and had to angle out turning for home. And by that point, he was like sixth or seventh, and he could have been easy for him to pack it in and just say, yeah, it's not my day. He goes to the inside. He keeps trying. He gets up for the dead heat. I think if he gets to the outside in the stretch, he probably gets up for second. He obviously was never going to beat measured time, but that's no disgrace. He's one of these horses that you don't lose any sleep wondering what he's going to do. He's going to try. And especially since we made him a Ridgeling, he's tried hard every single race. He's had a couple of races where he maybe was a little bit up against it from a class perspective, but that's to be expected with a developing, relatively lightly raced 4-year-old. Just so proud of him and the way he ran, the way he kept on trying. And, I think this is a little short for him. I think we've realized that he wants to go 10 furlongs and up. This was only a mile and a 3/16 because they can't run 10 furlongs on turf at Saratoga. I mean, what can you say? He tries hard every single time. He gets better and better. He's proven his class, especially the last two races. And yeah, to me, he is a legitimate contender later in the year for the major turf prizes, him and about 7 Charlie Appleby horses.
Yeah, I'll take the over on the 7 Appleby horses. In terms of, is the Bowling Green next? You've got that. I think it's $2 million at Kentucky Downs in September. Again, where Kentucky breds have the edge, the way the conditions are written. I do wonder, though, where we might go next with Ohana Honor. We've also got Integration, who's feeling better and set to get back on the work tab this weekend. So, yeah, Shug's done a great job with both of those horses. I think, as I said, quintessential Shug horse in my mind with Ohana Honor, who's just gotten better and better and better. And he wants longer than a mile and 3/16. I mean, he was galloping out full of energy. Very exciting effort out of him, and super proud. Moving on, guys, and we could spend the rest of the podcast and the next 2 hours talking about the Belmont and our love for Ohana Honor. Tommy, give me a quick thought on Signature, who pulled for a change. I mean, pulled a ground saving, pocketed up close trip, and when that seam opened up, he was just wasn't there.
Yeah, I know. We texted after the race, me and you, Jason, and had differing opinions. I thought he ran all right, and it looked like to me on the watching the race live that like you said, he had that pocket trip, and then the door just kind of slammed up on him. And I've seen it before with him where they're turning for home. It was just a wall of, 4 or 5 horses, whatever it was. And then he was by his lonesome behind that wall, just patiently waiting for his turn, waiting for someone to drift a little bit or to hold open up. It never really came. You could see he tried to poke his nose in the few spots where I thought he could try to just skirt through and get some clean air, but it just never really came to fruition. And that wall kind of stays closed on him, and there was nothing really there for him.
Maybe turf. We'll see. I mean, Shug still hasn't been able to breeze this horse. I mean, you'd be able to if Belmont was the traditional open Belmont. We wouldn't be talking about Belmont at Saratoga, but there's no turf course to train on, unfortunately, downstate right now. So, turf will probably be in the cards unless he absolutely hates it, which I don't anticipate. I don't know. I'm on the fence to just where we go, what we do with Signature, but Shug will figure it out. But again, just always being honest, I was disappointed he didn't finish a little better. I really thought he was going to punch on through that hole off the far turn. Gowan a Rush Joe on Friday, turf course here, much like the dirt, it was tough to make up ground. And man, I'll tell you, you, for a fourth place finish, I think I was as happy as I could have been. I thought she ran great in the Intercontinental. She tries so hard.
She does. And I thought for turning for home, we had a chance to mow him down and, just couldn't quite reel in those front runners. But yeah, she's another one who just shows up, tries hard every single time. You don't have to worry about her just throwing in a clunker. So you love to have horses like that. And I just think at the end of the day, obviously she's still 4. She still can progress a little bit. But I just think she's in a spot where she's a stakes horse, but not necessarily a graded stakes horse. She runs buyers in the low 90s. To win graded stakes like that, you probably got to run buyers in the high 90s. So there's no disgrace being a stakes horse. We're going to get her that stakes win. I have no doubt about it. And the issue with her is she's 5.5 is too short for her. She wants to go 6 and even 7 furlongs. And it's unfortunate with Belmont being closed right now. There really is nowhere to run 7 furlongs on the grass unless you want to go down to Kentucky Downs. We saw what happened with her last year at Kentucky Downs and that nightmare of her getting scratched at the gate. So I do think if we can find a spot for her down there, 6.5, 7 furlongs, then she can really strut her stuff and become a stakes winner. 5.5 too short for her, but she still really showed up and tried hard. And she's just an impossible horse not to like.
No, love her. Love Gowan a Rush for sure. And it's nice having her back as a 5-year-old. And she
5-year-old.
definitely, yeah, she's definitely got some unfinished business in terms of a stakes win. And who knows, maybe a graded stakes win. It just seems like she's still very much, it's that slow grind in a good way, but she's continuing to trend north, which we like. No doubt about it, guys. And rightfully so. The focus 99.8% of it was on Saratoga Springs all week through the weekend. We did have some horses though racing out of town. I would say Scatify naturally was the most important given the fact that he was running in a stake race late Sunday out at Santa Anita. I want to hear both of your opinions, please, on Scatify. Tommy, I'll start with you. We're second behind yet another Baffert off the conveyor belt in parenting. It was very impressive. What'd you think of Scatify's effort running second in the affirmed?
I thought it went really well. Like you already said, that Baffert horse just kind of freaked parenting there, and it's kind of getting old just seeing Baffert pump these horses out every single time in these stakes races out west. But I mean, for us to run second there, I think it was just pretty obvious we're the second best horse that day. Again, he's just another horse that just shows up and runs hard. He's going to give you his all, and outside of him getting mugged by shocker 2 Baffert horses, she shows up, he runs big. This is what he does. So I was very proud of him to hold on for second there because obviously that Baffert horse is pulling away. I was watching. I was like, all right, let's just hang on for a second here. That kind of became a race of its own down to the wire. But I was very proud of him there.
Yeah,
So Joe, we're
yeah.
second in a stake. What you're in charge. The three of us aren't in charge, but we love racing. Where do you stand with Scatify? Who's gone short, long, turf? I mean, what's your take on him?
Yeah, we're not in charge. That's why we're sitting here doing podcasts and pontificating. But yeah, like to me, I think he probably is best going a mile, maybe a mile on turf. I do think that 2 turns is ultimately not going to be his best game. I just got a quick pet peeve of mine. Tommy mentioned it, made me think of it. Can we stop focusing in only on the winner when the horse is blowing the field apart, because people have bets on the second, third, and fourth horses. It drives me crazy when they zoom in on the winner and you got to like sit there and wait like as you drool until they finally pan out and show the horses closing, running for second and third. So that's just a quick rant of mine. But yeah, I was pleased to see once they did finally focus on the other horses that he stuck it out for a second, because he probably could have been last in that race at a pretty quick pace. Again, like he's just a nice horse who I think we're still trying to figure out what he does best. And it's hard not to keep trying these 3-year-old stakes when he keeps placing in them. But yeah, I think ultimately 7 furlongs to a mile is probably where he'll be best.
Yeah, I've not gotten off, not a bandwagon per se, but I have, at least with the partners of mine that are in on him, talking after the race and even before. I still, my bread is buttered with this horse being at his absolute peak, 7/8 to a mile around the dirt. But again, that being said, Jeff Lowe just shared with us right before we started. He got a career best Ragozin, 11, and John Sadler, and it'll be in the update this week, touched upon the Iowa Derby, the Indiana Derby. So we'll see. He shows up. He's got a lot of very likable attributes in terms of his speed, his gameness, and his consistency. But again, I still 7/8 to a mile. Joe and I are definitely in agreement there. We have got, guys, a busy weekend coming up. In fact, a busy Thursday. Good luck. And depending upon when you're watching this, I do hope, if you didn't catch the races live, you're like, oh yeah, the process jogged, and Soho jogged in her second start back as a 3-year-old. Good luck to the two of them, one at Horseshoe Indy, and of course Soho out at Santa Anita today. We've got Pamplona in on Friday in the Big A nightcap. Joe, you'll be there for her. It's kind of not a weird spot, but I looked at the race and, again, being honest, I got both sides of it in terms of bringing her back and trying a special weight or just putting her in for the New York bred maiden 40. I was a little relieved, even in regards to a New York bred maiden special weight. There's not a lot of like proven or prior turf form in her race, which I was happy to see when I looked at the PPs.
Yeah, totally. And I was of the opinion she had a little bit of trouble last time out. Breaking from the rail on that shoot is not easy. And then she was a little green in the stretch. So I was of the opinion that we should give her one more shot at the maiden level before dropping her down. And this is that shot. And there's no killers in there. I think the top buyer figure is like in the high 60s or maybe low 70s. So there's no excuse this time. She gets a positive rider switch, in my opinion, to Javier Castellano. She draws further outside. So this is her shot to prove that she belongs at this level.
Coast along in Saturday. He's looking to rebound after just a disastrous trip where he got keyed up between and just kind of ran off. He's running against a number of the same horses that were well in front of him last time out. I like his speed. I mean, his cruising speed on the grass will take your breath away. I mean, he's that fast. And when he gets into that powerful rhythm, he's going to need his running shoes on, though, because it's
Brutal
not
field.
an easy. Yeah,
Brutal.
I mean, again, when you think of like, all right, it's mid-June, a traditional Belmont 3-and-up maiden turf race, that's the kind of field you're going to conjure in your mind. So it is a brutal field. He's going to need some luck. They all need luck. We all need luck in general, but good luck to Coast Along. Not an easy spot. Stars and Six Strings is in for the 22 lifetime, off to, he's glad he won last time, but he's a little light on figures. And, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's hard to argue when you've been around long enough with guys like Brad Cox and Todd Pletcher and Christoph Kaman and John Sadler, when they say, hey, this horse, this is where he belongs. In my experience, humbly, 99% of the time, those guys are right. So good luck to Stars and Six Strings. I love his pedigree. And, hopefully we get a win, and it's a big pot for him. Then we've got the 2-in Saturday out at the Great Race Place, Indispensable and Pony Express. They're in the same race. Both of them look pretty live. And then I guess for me, guys, like the highlight of the weekend is the fact that we have got Winning Spirit. And Joe, you just talked about a brutal field and race for Coast Along. For $1.75, Tommy, in an ungraded race in your neck of the woods out there in the old Ville at Churchill for Winning Spirit, man, this is a tough field for him.
Yeah, they sure showed up. I think there's been a lot of these horses here in Kentucky that have been itching to find anything going long in the grass, and obviously, just looking at the field, they showed up. I'm very excited to get Winning Spirit finally going here. I mean, me personally, just looking at the field, I thought 12-1 on Winning Spirit was a little high.
Hmm.
Thought it'd be lower. Maybe they would have taken into account the vet scratch. Who knows? But obviously, in this race, I think the one that I was kind of hyper focused on outside of Winning Spirit was Web Slinger, who obviously loves Churchill Downs. He's just a horse that this fits for him. He hasn't won in a while. I mean, he won the Audubon last year and the American Turf back to back, and he hasn't won since. He's come really close, but hasn't gotten it done yet. He finished up well last time out in the Turf Classic. So this is a horse that for for us, I think we have to keep an eye on, just kind of gauge where he's at, because he's going to be coming right from the back, which I imagine we're going to be doing the same. So if we can beat him to the punch, I think that would be a awesome way to get Winning Spirit's career started stateside here.
Yeah, even if we can't win or he kind of needs a race, I just, Joe, am looking not only forward. I'm excited to see Winning Spirit race because he had a lot of class and quality overseas. That's why Christoph and we jumped in and bought him late last year. Um, I really want to see just like a solid, even effort to start his 4-year-old campaign for us.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what style he has because he's raced towards the back, he's raced kind of mid pack, he's tracked the pace. Be interesting to see where he lands under Joel Rosario. But yeah, I think the consensus going into this year when we bought both Cortez and Winning Spirit, that was Cortez was the more proven commodity at the grade and group level. Winning Spirit had the bigger upside. And we've seen Cortez already win a grade 2 over here. And Winning Spirit, I'm not expecting him to win right off the bench. But if he comes up with a good effort off of a nearly year-long layoff, you got to think he's going to move forward second out. And then who knows? Who knows how good he can be? That's what's exciting. You know, when you get these Euro imports, the sky's the limit. And obviously they don't all work out, but especially a young horse like him, 4-year-old, had a great 3-year-old campaign, shipped all over the place to Germany, Italy, ran big. I just think that it's exciting when it's just kind of like it's a complete mystery. It's a mystery box what we're gonna get, and I lean towards the more optimistic side, considering Christoph picked him out.
I do as well. It's not a big pool of horses, but I mean, hear me out. You got Parnak, Lady Mia, who's won a couple of races and hopefully can continue to maybe be a stakes horse. Atomic Blonde, she's a stakes winner now. And Cortez, who won the grade 2 Pan Am on Florida Derby Day, which was amazing and a phenomenal win out of him. So, no, I mean, the results speak for themselves, as does Christoph's eye. Good luck to Winning Spirit in a very difficult race on Saturday. You're close with the web slinger camp, Joe. I mean, we've had some good battles with him in the past, including the
Yeah.
Pegasus turf. He's a nice little horse.
He is, man. For a $50,000 OBS June buy, he's made 1.2 million. I was talking to John Green actually about it the other day, and I was talking about Ohana and how you rest easy at night knowing he's going to try hard. And I was saying, you guys have a horse like that in Web Slinger. You have no worries that he's not going to show up, and he does get to stretch out to a mile and 3/8 this time. He's been a really nice horse.
What's constant, and he's by constitution. I know I jumped off the past performances. I mean, and I understand Mind Frame did not win the Belmont, but it just every time I look up and there's an exciting new horse, Web Slingers in that, it's like, oh, who's that horse by? Oh, he's another constitution. He'll be standing for a minimum of 200 G's next year. We've got a few more horses scheduled to run this weekend. You've got the two Shuggies on Sunday, Dripping Gold and Battle of Normandy. We enter today. Flavor Flav, Mr. Pratt has the ride on both of them. Final Boss and the Cinema Stakes, his last start on the turf going long was really a breakthrough effort. That was a powerful performance out of him. And then we get back into the 2-year-olds, guys, and don't want to jump start or get too far ahead of things, but for what it's worth, you can see the entry date on the far right is June 13th. Upper left of my iPad, it's June 13th. Joe, we got Sandman waiting in the wings for the Cassie barn.
Just a quick update on that because I'm a journalist. I'm going to break some news here. We got a spot on June 27th that he's pushing for now. It's 6 as opposed to 5.5, so we got to update that. I think the idea, obviously, with a horse like him is the longer the better. So he wants to give him one more breeze down at Churchill, and then he's got a spot on Thursday the 27th going 6 furlongs. So it sounds like that's the lean right now for Sandman. But it's just he to me is, we've got a lot of exciting 2-year-olds. To me, he's the most exciting 2-year-old because he only galloped at the sale, because he cost 7 figures. I mean, just the sky is the absolute limit for him, I think. So yeah, June 27th, I think, is the spot now.
We can wait the extra week. All right. It's all good. And I do really like, I'm not relieved, but 6 as opposed to 5.5. You might go, hey, it's 110 yards. That could make a world of difference with the kind of horse he's bred to be, and the way Mark Cassie trains, and the fact that we didn't buy him to win a maiden race at Churchill Downs, regardless of the date in June. So no, I'm happy to hear that. Thank you for sharing that. We have got a little room left in terms of just exciting 2-year-olds. And I mean, geez, between March, April, and May, I think the total was 18 altogether. We've got just a little room remaining, 20%, in fact, so less than a quarter left on this beautiful New York bred filly by Solomini. She's a great price. And Tommy, I shared it on Chatter Saturday night. Not that I was the only person to think of it, but I was like, man, the great Curlin, one of the all-time legendary horses of the American turf, certainly in the last quarter century, if not a little more than that. He has got another, as a grandsire, another classic win, newly minted in Dornoch with the Belmont.
Yeah, which is, I mean, the horses that Carlin has thrown, and then the horses that his sons are throwing are just head scratching how awesome and just fast they all are. And I think this is not an exception. I mean, she's a very athletic looking horse. I was really impressed with her breeze. She kind of caught me by surprise, to me, just how easy and just fluid she was. I mean, she's a very athletic type horse, and being a New York bred, I know you've touched on it before. I think these New York bred stakes races, the series up there is very lucrative. A lot of money in there, so I wouldn't be surprised if she has a lot of talent that she's going to show up in some of those races, and hopefully we can take a few of those home with her.
I hope so. I really hope so. My goal with her, the plan is we'll make her, the good Lord willing, the racing gods willing, a New York bred stakes winner, and she's eligible for that super lucrative New York Stallion Stakes. And again, that's a very, very restrictive pool. I mean, Joe, watching a horse like Doc Sullivan on Sunday on that New York Showcase Day, and I felt bad. I mean, I love the New York bred program. I know you guys are in accord with that. I mean, Joe and I are New York breds. We've spent our life going to the races. I felt bad. Such a beautiful card with one giant field after another. Those turf races and even the dirt races with the sloppy track and the no turf. I felt bad. The weather didn't cooperate. But bottom line is, I mean, this is a filly that's eligible for 5 extra, like really restricted stakes worth a total of $1 million.
100%. I'm glad you brought that up, because there's so many years that I look at those races and I'm like, how much money are they giving away for this field? And it's just, you have to delineate the difference between New York bred races and New York Stallion Series races. The New York bred races are pretty salty because obviously, as we've seen the growth of the New York bred program over the years, the New York Stallion Series, a lot of these races, especially with 2-year-olds, you can win with like 65, 70 buyers. Like, obviously we hope that she's better than that, but there's just so many times I look at these races, I'm like, Jesus, I wish we had a New York Stallion sired horse to run in these races, because it's like stealing money. And I'm so glad that she has the potential to be a part of that.
And here's your Mike Lee winner, Doc Sullivan. This was even before his big win on Sunday, and he's by Solomini. I mean, he's banked, I looked it up, about 270,000 after the win on Saturday. And a perfect example, again, whoops, what did I do here? I apologize. Here we go. Antonio of Venice, by the late Laubon, but he's running a couple of these restrictive stallion stakes. He won the race in the fall last December for $500,000.
See, 68 buyer. 68 buyer wins a $500,000 race.
There you go. Look what he's banked, $535K. So again, you really got a bonus plan built in with the Solomini filly, which is very exciting. And speaking of exciting, just a couple of picks I snapped, guys, of Ohana. Love this shot of him. in the walking ring. It was just awesome having him in the Manhattan. And I mean, as I said in that video I taped Saturday night in front of his stall, I mean, how can you beat the way this horse looks? I mean, to the eye, look at that tail. I mean, he
Got to
is
get the
just
tail.
mwah.
Yeah, you got to get the tail, man. He's one of those horses that you got to get the front, and then you got to get the
Always.
tail because he's just so unique looking.
And then Christina and I, sorry, this isn't really West Point related, but in terms of family members, and you know, we love our pets here at West Point Thoroughbreds and our horses. Christina and I on Monday took Z over to the spa. Christina, if you don't know, works for Naira during the summer up here, and she worked the Belmont Festival, so she had to take care of a couple of things, and we took Z on a nice walk, and there you go. There's Z and the legendary, well, maybe not legendary, Sea Hero, who I think one guys I was looking at his you know, under the statue, I was looking at his accomplishments. I think he may have won like a handful of races. His maiden race, the Champagne, the Kentucky Derby, and the Travers. I said to Christina, if you had to be right on only a couple of days in your life, he certainly picked the right days to step up and run big.
That's how you know. That's how you know what a big deal Jason is still at Naira. That he's got Z just laying in the Saratoga paddock. That's a flex, my friend.
Yep, I have a lot of good friends still that work for the company, and it's always good to see some friendly faces. And that, I think, is a good jumping off point rather for the summer meets with Saratoga and Del Mar. Less than a month away, guys. This was a great podcast. Really happy we were able to recap a phenomenal Belmont Stakes 156. And Joe, we'll be looking for you on the Big A, the Belmont at the Big A feed. And of course, Tommy, you'll be at Churchill all weekend. Good luck with winning Spirit and Stars and Six Strings. And what do you say, boys? Let's go get them.
Let's get it.
Wins.
All right. See you guys. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. We'll see you next week.